music in Jerusalem, like call Ben, that's so much of the stuff that comes into my studio. And that's, some of it's great, but also some of it is not exactly in line with what I really want to be doing.
Yeah.
So I have some work ahead of me.
Yes, and we have lots of questions to talk about in our coaching call immediately following this this interview.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We went for the double whammy today. Do you think like being a musician first, or starting off on the drums, playing in bands, meeting musicians, was this like a big reason for, I don't know, your I guess social lubrication of like, being such a good people person in the industry, and like knowing how to chat with the artists, and the things that you say come easily to you?
I think so. Yeah. Well, I was a session drummer for so long, and gigging with a bunch of different artists and playing in the studio with a bunch of different artists, and I had to be able to be a bit of a chameleon and figure out how to communicate, not just musically, and how to help these people express their sonic visions of a song, even though I'm the one playing drums for them, but also how to communicate with them on a personal level, and how to figure out, well, what are their bigger goals? What are they trying to do? And are there ways beyond just my drumming that I can help them with, that I can help them to achieve whatever those goals may be? Or do I know somebody that I can introduce them to, that they can do that? And I feel like that mentality definitely crossed over to when I made the pivot into producing and mixing. And I'm always just trying to help people to find clarity in what their goals actually are, which will help them to find clarity in how to achieve them. And then if it's something that I can help them with, then I will do whatever I can to help them with it. And if it's something that one of my contacts can help them with, I'll happily introduce them. Or if it's something that I don't have any idea, I'll be the first person to say, that's not my world at all. Like I want to try to help with whatever I can, but this is not my wheelhouse, and I acknowledge that, and I know what my strengths are, I know what my weaknesses are, I know what my experiences are, and I know what my experiences were not. But I always try to help to make sure that the artist is taken care of and in good hands, whether or not they're my hands.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that we kind of touched on in the beginning of, maybe it was right before we started the coaching thing, was you kind of sent me a proposal for like a production to an artist, like just as a demonstration of what you send people. And I love how you bring it, you send this whole team, like you send it like, hey, this is the team you're going to be working with. These are the people that we have involved helping me out, because you don't do everything. You do the things that you do best, which is the mix and some of the production elements, but you don't do the mastering. You don't do all the sound design. You don't do all the tuning. You're not a one-stop shop. You're like, hey, let's bring in other people that do this stuff better than me, or at least like not, if it's not the thing I do best, I'm bringing in someone else who can also do it.
Yeah, and that's for. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
I love that collaborative mentality of like, and it came off to me as super professional also, because it's like, hey, like you're in good hands. It's not just me. This guy's amazing at this. This person does mastering so well.
So I look at it like this. If you wanted to build a shed in your backyard, you could probably find a contractor that could do all of it, his or herself, right? Or maybe like with, a second person helping them out, right? But if you're trying to build something at a higher level, like whether it's a full house or it's, a national aquarium or an art museum, there are a lot more specialty things that are going to be needed. And even within that, I wouldn't want to hire the plumber that came to, fix my sink to be the one to figure out the salination system for the saltwater exhibit at the aquarium, or I wouldn't want the HVAC guy that was coming in and installing central air at the house to be the one that has to figure out and install the temperature and like humidity regulation things in the art museum to make sure that the Renaissance paintings don't deteriorate over time, right? So if I were just doing, garage punk rock bands, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like if I was doing that, I probably could do everything by myself, because there's a different like level of sonic. The sonic goals are different. I don't even want to say like different levels. I just mean the goals are different.
Absolutely.
And the stuff that I'm working on, the more like pop, indie pop kind of things,
polished,
very like they want it to sound expensive. You know what I mean? Like they want it to sound super professional and like huge and clean, and that's what I'm really good at. but I'm really good at the mixing part. So even if I am really, really good, even if I was, a super experienced HVAC person that could do the humidity system in the art museum, they probably wouldn't hire that same person to do the plumbing in the bathrooms, or to design the architecture of like the parking lot or something. Like there's even then, like they might be really specialized, but they're not going to be specialized at everything. And I feel like the sooner that you can admit that to yourself and you realize, oh, maybe I can just surround myself with all these other fantastic specialists, bring them in on the team, and then it makes it a much easier sell because you're like, you have this song. I think it's great. Here's what I think we can do with it. Here are the people that I think can do all the different stages. Everybody is just a badass at what they do. And because of that, we're going to get this done a lot quicker. It's going to be at a lot higher quality. And a lot of times, like for vocal editing, for example, I could do it, but I'm slow and I'm more expensive than a lot of the people that I would hire to do that. So it's like, well, it'll be cheaper and faster and probably better because they do this all the time if you just have this other person do it. So it has this kind of counterintuitive effect where you think, oh, it's a team, it's going to be a lot of people, therefore more expensive, but a lot of times it actually helps bring the costs down and speeds up the process.
Yeah,
so,
I think speeding up the process is even the biggest thing because when I do everything on a production, I do the recording, the editing, the mixing. At this point, I'm like thankfully barely doing mastering. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time because you got to now I got to get in the headspace of like, okay, now I'm editing the vocals. Now it gets in the headspace, okay, now I'm moving into mix. Like all these little processes take so much longer than just like, hey, here's a mix. Oh, cool, I'll just do a mix. Or hey, just edit these vocals. Great, I'll just edit these vocals. Yeah. It's like, oh, it becomes a slog, Yeah.
And you lose objectivity too, which is a huge thing.
Big time.
Yeah. So even for artists that I'm producing, like I've always, like, I'm sure you're going to want to segue into the Megaflower song shortly.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So
absolutely.
I was going to say, so even with that, like even for artists that I'm doing production for, I'm pretty much never doing all of the production by myself. I'm almost always bringing in co-producers or people to do additional production, especially for like sound design things. Like I very regularly hire other producers basically as session musicians, but instead of playing guitar or drums, they're just creating synth pads for me for a song, because I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are. And if I know somebody that can just really crush some solid, warm, luscious pads that I know they could put together like 10 amazing options in a half hour, or I could sit there screaming at my computer for hours, hating the world and hating my life. Why would I not just have them come in? And when you do a presentation and a proposal that includes the team and explains who they are, why they're on board, like why they're so great at what they do, you just put that into the budget, and it takes a lot of time off my shoulders, so a lot of responsibility off my shoulders as well. So then, I'm not making as much money per song, but I'm not putting in as much time. I'm probably actually making more, if you on average per hour, if I'm delegating stuff than if I'm doing it all myself, because these people that I'm working with are better and faster and a lot of times cheaper.
Yeah, and now you could do a lot more projects at a higher rate per hour or per thing that you're doing specifically.
And most importantly, back to the kind of proactive word of mouth, the more songs that I get finished and get released, the more artists are sharing the music that I worked on, and the more artists are tagging me in their posts, and the more friends of those artists are hearing the work that I've worked on. So
yes, that's one of the, if I could share one more item from your course, or just like from what me chatting with you on the coaching side of things, just being cognizant of release dates and artwork and promotion.
I'm obsessed,
and not just ending on the okay, the song's done, I finished the mix, mastering's been checked off, great, it's over. No, is the song being released? Can I help the artist promote it? Can we make this a bigger deal? Because like everything's going to help everybody if we push the marketing end of things as well.
Yeah.
So
and the more that you can show them that you actually care about it, it's going to make them so much more likely to A, hire you again, B, scream from the rooftops how great of an experience it was. Because you're going above and beyond to help them and to promote them. But really, it's not hard. It's just like sending a text asking for a release date just, set yourself a reminder. It's not hard. A lot of times when I do release day posts, I'm just, shooting the artist a message a couple of days in advance, asking if they have any visuals for it. And they'll either send me like a Spotify Canvas video they made, or maybe they made a lyric video, or if, not everybody's making official music videos anymore, but almost everybody's making some sort of visual component. I just ask them to send me the .mov file, and then I'll just repurpose that and use that as a post. So it's not as hard as it may seem. And I feel like that's kind of the beauty of taking this approach, is that producers and mix engineers in general just like don't go to the trouble of doing that. So if you just go to the trouble of, sending a message and asking them how the release prep's going, just showing that you're caring about the actual song itself, not just, stopping the care as soon as you get your PayPal notification, that's going to help to really solidify and nurture the relationships that you have.
Yeah.
And that's huge.
What I'm actually taking away from all of this is like, you're just putting your ego at the door, and you're putting the relationship side of things like front and center, and also the business side. But because the business side is also part of that. Like it's like a nurturing of the relationship as well. Because okay, I don't need to do all this. And I think a lot of us audio engineers, a lot of ego. And it's like, okay, I could do them. I'll just do the editing. I'll just do all the recording.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't need to do that. I only need to do what I need to do. And I'm a business, and I want to make more money, obviously, as a business. But by doing that, I'm doing what I'm like actually serving the people best with, and just and doubling down on that, and obviously the marketing stuff is you're helping the artists you're working with.
Yeah, I mean that's why I would never take my wife to a gas station for an anniversary dinner. Like, yeah, they sell food, right? They can, maybe I'll get her a cool T-shirt and some sunglasses while we're there.
In the right post-apocalyptic movie, it sounds actually really nice. But
yeah, that's a good point. In the near future, that'll be the hot spot. But just because they can do it doesn't mean they're going to do it at a high level. And just because, like you said, just because we can do vocal editing, or just because we can do mastering, doesn't mean that we should. And for me, I was talking about that artist that messaged me a couple of minutes ago. I've been doing some mastering for them, but I'm mastering songs that I didn't mix because I know myself. I know the objectivity that I lack by that point in the stage. I feel pretty good about my mastering skills, and I'll happily do it for artists if I feel like I'm the right fit for it. But again, as soon as somebody hires me for a mix, I assume that I'm going to be sending it out to either Nicholas DiLorenzo or somebody like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never tried mastering other people's mixes, and I assume it would be a lot easier job than what I've done until now. Maybe not.
Depends on how good the mixes are.
No, not as a dedicated mastering engineer, but I feel like I could probably get a grasp on it. It would be interesting to try it out. Because when you hear someone else's mixes, you kind of hear what you would do differently. You know what I mean? And then you could kind of hear okay, I feel like there's not enough sub here, or there's too much sub here. And you can kind of just address those issues.
It's
from a more objective standpoint, but it's also, it's not my wheelhouse. This is something I want to do. It would just be for a creative practice just to see, I
think the grass is always greener on the other side, because if you're mixing it yourself, you lose the objectivity. But if you're mastering somebody else's mixes, your hands are tied because you don't have the control to make the detailed changes that you would want, and you're just trying to minimize the compromises that have to be made to get it to sound good.
Right.
So I feel like either way, no matter what I'm doing, I'll find a way to complain about it.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Yeah.
The job is not easy, but we love it.
Exactly.
So moving on to the musical side of things, aka the Saw segment. So you sent me a track by a band called Megaflower. I think it might just be one artist. I'm not sure if it's a band or if it's just one singer.
It's just him. Yeah.
Yeah, Megaflower, and a track called Days With You, which is airing by the time this podcast releases. And so let's have a listen to it, and we'll talk about a little bit what went into it after we have a listen. Sound cool?
Sure.
5 weeks, you've gotta be kidding me. I can handle only 5 weeks. I was thinking it would last forever, so I